There you've got the land acknowledgement.
You can go ahead, Nick.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the inaugural virtual Heritage Wilmot Advisory Committee meeting. For those tuning in online, Heritage Wilmot is a group of volunteers appointed by Township Council each term. Our role is to advise and assist Council and Township staff on matters related to the conservation of properties having cultural heritage value or interest. And this can include designating properties under the Heritage Act or including properties on our Heritage Register. And our committee also promotes cultural heritage interests and assists with the recognition of the history of the township and also Waterloo region. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Next item on the agenda is land acknowledgement. Councillor Fisher, if you wouldn't mind reading that for the committee.
Sure can. We have gathered in Wilmot Township on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas peoples. We also want to acknowledge the importance of the Dish with One Spoon Covenant, a peace agreement made between Indigenous nations before the Europeans arrived. It characterizes our collective responsibility to each other and Mother Earth. We should take only what we need, leave enough for others, and keep the dish clean. By acknowledging this covenant and the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, we are reminded of our important connection to this land where we live, learn, and work together as a community.
Thank you, Councillor Fisher. Item 3 on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Code of Conflict and Interest Act. Do any members have any disclosures? Seeing none. Item 4 is review of minutes from our last meeting, which now seems so long ago. Any comments, questions, omissions, additions? If not, could I have a motion to approve the minutes? That's Patty, seconded by Councillor Fenny. All in favor? That is carried. Thanks, everyone. Moving on to business. First item on there is the non-designated register inventory. Margaret, Yvonne, if you wouldn't mind doing a bit of a progress update for the committee, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you very much. We've been working on it. Yvonne has done the history, quite a bit of the history, I think most of it, and I have done the architectural description for most of the buildings. I've got 3 or 4 left to go, and then that part's done. And I've purposely been fairly brief with the architectural description so that it doesn't get too big on the chart. But when it's done, I'll send it to Tracy and for comments, and to Nick, and to see if you want any more of a description or if you're happy with what I've got. But we're getting there. It should be finished reasonably soon.
That sounds great. Thanks, Mark.
Now I have a question. Yvonne and I were discussing this earlier today. There is an owner of the school on Christner Drive who we talked to, and he doesn't want to be on the non-designated list. So should that just be completely left off, or how do we deal with people that don't want to be on the list at all? Because that's what he told us.
Was that someone recently, Mark, or are you thinking from before?
He went to see him a couple of months ago in the fall weather, but he's the new owner. Okay. And when we talked to him about it, he got really adamant that there was no way we're putting his schoolhouse on the list. So I don't know how the record's incomplete without him being on the list, but in the past, we haven't been putting people on the list who didn't want to be on it.
Mm-hmm. Tracy, I see you had your hand up.
Perhaps when we come back at the next meeting, because we'll have more of a fulsome list, we could maybe put this on the agenda on something to discuss. I know it's come up one other time. So then we would have better direction on how the committee would like to proceed with property owners that feel that way.
Okay,
Just an idea.
thank you.
Yvonne?
Yeah, I just wanted to, we talked about this this afternoon actually, and my concern was that all of the buildings are showing up on the list for historical purposes, and having an individual deny the building to appear on the list. I'm not sure whether the individual has the right to do that. So I think that's, you know, there's a privacy issue, but there's also the question about which buildings go on the list and which don't, and why, right? So that is the discussion that we're hoping to have then.
Oh, Patty had your hand up too?
Just going to get my hand down here now. So I agree with Yvonne there, and I also wonder if is there anything to be gained between now and the next meeting of sending or dropping off this you know, the information about what this really, and maybe that was already done, was it, Mark? You know, what the list is, and
Oh yeah,
yeah, okay.
we very carefully explained to him what it was all about. We showed him a sample and all that, and he got really hot under the collar not being on the list.
Huh.
He was adamant.
I really think Yvonne has a good point there, that this isn't just a group of houses, this is the schools of this. I mean, it's somewhat stronger when it is the schools, I think. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Tracy, you had your hand up too.
Sure. Maybe it might be worthwhile to collect some more information, because I know there's some other municipal heritage committees that will put properties of interest on their non-designated and not even notify the property owner. Mm-hmm. There's that. I mean, we've been very, I think, open and trying to let people know when we have selected their property for you know, various reasons. They get the brochure, why they are included, what it means. So I know we've been very proactive on encouraging and supporting, but like I said, I do know there's others that just put properties on. So I think it's worthy of the conversation for sure.
Oh, Councillor Penny? Oh, you're muted, I think.
I took my hand down and forgot to unmute. Too busy thinking about the conversation. Yeah, I honestly struggle to understand why, like, I can see somebody not wanting to be designated because that entails specific restrictions and certain conditions that they may not want to have to deal with. But the non-designated doesn't actually create any restrictions or any kind of infringement on their ability to do whatever they want, basically, with their property. Is that correct?
Yeah, the only restriction is just if they want to demolish their building, then they have to notify the township. And then there's a 60-day period to review whether or not the building should be designated. But other than that, they can do whatever they like to the property. Okay, well, maybe Mark and Yvonne, I think it makes sense to finish the inventory, and then we have it complete, and then we can talk about it the next meeting with the rest of the properties, and then decide from there. Oh, Yvonne, you had your hand up too, I think. Oh, and you're muted. I do that all the time.
I hate this. I hate this. I really do. I think this gets me back to the information that we actually used for this particular school, in that it is in a publication that was put out by the Region of Waterloo. long before we ever considered adding schools to our non-designated list. So the information about the building is actually out there in the public domain for us to copy and edit and use as we choose. And I think we're allowing the owners, we're giving the owners, I don't know, proper notification perhaps that information about the building that they now own is being printed by our committee, but they have the right to actually deny us publishing information that's already out there. And that's all. So that's just something that we can beat over the head at another time, I guess.
Oh, Tracy?
Would it make sense then if there was one or two members that could maybe collect some information on some other heritage committees, or just to have a little bit more information? I'm sure we're not the only one that have faced this issue, to see how others do it. But I do agree. I think it's worth the good conversation about this. And in fact, when the region did their, just to add, their inventory, they actually tapped into us for the information and photos that actually came from Township Archives and Heritage Wilmot material.
Does anyone feel like looking into what other committees have done? Yvonne? Perfect. Yvonne, I can take a look at the act as well, and then I can just send you that so you have that for some background information. Great. Anything else on the Heritage Register? All right, I think we can move on then. Next item under business was the Heritage Permit application for window replacement and painting at TJ's. We discussed this item at the last meeting where we reviewed the work they wanted to do. Following the meeting, I put together and circulated comments on behalf of the committee back to the property owner. I know they've done some work. There's some work underway on the property right now. I don't know that they've done much on the exterior yet. It doesn't look like they have, but it'll be interesting to see that project continue on and unfold. So I just wanted to put that on there to give everybody a bit of an update. So we'll just look for that. Tracy, I don't know if you've had any recent communications with them at all.
No, not since we provided some feedback from our last committee meeting on some of the things that we discussed.
Great. So I think we can move on to new business then. First item under there is proposed renovations at 130 Queen Street. If everyone remembers that, we put that property on the Heritage Register a few years ago. It was the old Miller House, and we were contacted by the owner of the property who's starting on some renovations and restoring the home after it's been sat for a while. So the home's now on a separate parcel of land that's a couple acres. Now has new ownership, and they're working on rebuilding the rear portion of the home. And so I was able to tour the property to get a sense of the scale of what they're working on, and took a bunch of photos and gave them to Tracy. So they're in the township records now, so we can take a look. But it's a big project. The main house is being retained and restored, and they've took out most of the inside of the house, back down to the studs and the outside walls, and they're working on basically rebuilding a new building inside. So they're also going to be doing on the exterior, they're going to retain all the existing wood windows, or if they aren't able to save any of the wood windows, they're looking at doing replicas that look like the existing windows, and they'll be rebuilding the porch based on old photos. So they haven't done much on it yet on the exterior, so I think they'll be doing that in the spring, but it'll be great to see the property brought back to life. So just wanted to put that on to update everybody. Anyone have anything on that item? All right, next item under new business is the Bridge Street Bridge. The township is embarked on an EA to review potential replacement of the bridge. And it looks like it's a similar type of project as the Holland Mills Bridge that was done a few years ago, where it's a single lane bridge and it's not in terrific shape. So they're looking at what to do with the bridge, and they're looking at replacement. And there's a draft of the Cultural Heritage Report that's been circulated to our committee for comment. And looks like there's salvage is an option if there's an ability to use the materials for something else where it's possible or feasible. And there was a mention of a commemoration type of thing, like what's being done for the Holland Mills Bridge. So I'll send that to everybody to take a look at, and then maybe we can review that at our next meeting. And then I understand that the project will advance further in the spring with a public information meeting, and then I think the final recommendation was in the fall. Is that right, Jason? Perfect. Oh, Al, see your hand up.
Yeah. So they're not looking at restoration at all at this point. They're basically have, or is it too soon? Haven't they made a recommendation or anything on that yet?
I know that was one of the options. I think it was not recommended because you would still only have a single lane bridge at the end of the day. So I think there were some other reasons not to consider restoration, but I know the reports aren't final, and they certainly have not made a final recommendation yet. So there's certainly an opportunity for us to input.
Yeah. I just wanted to add that there are only 4 truss bridges left, and that is the only one that's in a rural area. So they'll be all gone if that one's gone. And secondly, this isn't a heritage issue, but if that bridge is removed, it's going to have a significant effect on traffic movement in Ward 1, because Bridge Street, that bridge prevents a lot of traffic from trying to drive through the length of Bridge Street from one end to the other. So it's going to have a significant impact on the community of New Dundee, similar to the impact that happened in Hazelville when that bridge is removed and replaced with the structures there now. So that needs to be maybe not in the purview of our committee. Maybe it is, it's cultural heritage or whatever, but it will have implications. Just put that on the record.
So in one sense, it might not be great if it could handle more traffic. Yvonne, I see you had your hand up too.
Yes, I just wanted to follow up on what Al said about the traffic, because it seems to me traffic calming is one of the things that is coming up, that the fact that people are speeding. What we look at happened in New Dundee, where it's a regional road, and they have taken all these steps to calm the traffic because the high speeds are the issue. And having a one span, like a 1 lane bridge, is the perfect historical traffic calming way to address it. And I'm wondering, is the traffic study part of this? Do you know, Nick? Have you seen the report?
I haven't seen anything besides just the draft of the cultural heritage one.
Okay.
I don't
It'd
know
be
that the
really
other parts are done yet.
interesting to see and have this as part of the discussion, because I think that it shouldn't be ignored.
Mm-hmm. Tracy, maybe that's something that we could check with I think it's Jeff, right? To see what other reports might be available as part of the background that we could review as the committee, but maybe just for general interest too.
Jen's got her hand up, I think.
Oh, yep. Yes, Jen.
Boy, I can't work the mute button today. I believe it was that bridge that I've heard that a number of farmers have had difficulty with implements striking. And so I think there have been some concerns raised because of that. The increased size of farm equipment has impacted the use of that bridge as well.
I could definitely see that happening. Al?
Yeah, there was a similar argument made when the Hazelville Bridge was up for study. And in fact, at one point, it looked as though the Hazelville Bridge was going to be retained. And then there was a massive outcry. And the project went ahead, and the amount of truck traffic and the speed of all that traffic increased immensely to let a few agricultural vehicles cross the bridge. So guaranteed, well, not guaranteed, but pretty well certain that that'll reoccur. And as Yvonne pointed out, the region is trying to traffic calm because they're going to put photo radar in front of the New Dundee Public School because the problem already exists. So it needs to be considered, and it's a thorny issue. It also could impact gravel truck movement through this area as well, if that bridge becomes a full 2-lane bridge.
Okay. I think those are all good points. And like I said, I'll send around the draft of the Heritage Report, and then we can see what other background information is available. And certainly follow the project along as it continues. Anyone else on that item? I don't see any more hands, so I'll move on. Next item was the Cultural Heritage Landscape Project. Tracy, I think you had an update for the group on that.
I sure do. So I wanted to share with the committee that research has begun on the cultural heritage landscape for its Wilmot Township, and it's also North Dumfries. And the staff, just to let you know, the staff liaison for the project for Wilmot is the Director of Development Services and me, working with the regional staff. So we've had one meeting, and regional staff, they've been in consultation with the Heritage Resource Center at the University of Waterloo, who did the first plan. And I think I circulated, last year or so, just to kind of see how they handled with the other townships. So they are just developing an online engagement portal, and community members will be able to identify potential cultural heritage landscapes on maps and upload photos, and then complete survey of potential locations. And I know our committee, we've talked about over the years some ones that are definitely are like our top 5. So as soon as the engagement portal has been launched, and they believe in the next month, Heritage Wilmot will be provided the link. And so all of us as members, we can begin individually engaging with the project. And then as we move forward, I'll definitely keep everyone updated. But it's an exciting project, I think, for us to be involved in, for Heritage Wilmot and the township. So yeah, so I'll keep everybody up to date.
Great.
And to perhaps think of places. And I know before we thought of ones that we'd like to, but yeah, maybe just in the back, just to start creating a list of ones that you feel would be great for this beautiful township.
I'm excited to see how it unfolds.
Mm-hmm.
It was the project that was done for the other 2 townships was quite well done. Mm-hmm. And so it'll be neat to see that level of detail done here too.
Absolutely. And then when you can think what can be included. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Great. Well, thanks for that update. Any comments on that item? Don't see any. Move on to Heritage Day. For those tuning in online, so Heritage Week is coming up shortly. which is an opportunity to recognize and to celebrate our cultural heritage in our communities. Wilmot Township, we usually host a Heritage Day event, but this past year has understandably been quite different, so we can't do that. So we've been working with Township staff to share lots of great information during Heritage Week, just so there's still information that gets out there for everyone to check out. I think Al and Tracy have some information to share with everyone on that.
Are you going to go ahead, Tracy?
If you want to go first, I can follow up after.
Okay, just to let the viewing public and the rest of the committee a bit of an update about what's been happening. Is going to be happening. The event is being promoted on the digital signs in the township. Although the last time I looked, the New Dundee one wasn't working, so maybe Carl can do something about that. So that advertising will be there, and also let people know we are proceeding with it with a virtual event. There are media posts, social media posts, highlighting photos and facts about the community, and we'll be using the Council Kilbride Facebook page. That'll be led by Sherry, and there'll be tweets and township social media to support what we're doing, and that'll be promoted by Kelly Baird, who's the communication specialist for the township. And I know some of us have contributed social media posts to Tracy. They'll be part of it. I actually got a text from a loyal follower of Heritage Day the other day wondering what was happening. So I was able to tell them that we are definitely going to have a virtual event. It's unfortunate we can't have an actual in-person event like we normally do. So hopefully we can get that word out there that we are going to be online and that people can look in.
Perfect. I can follow up. First of all, Carl says that he'll make sure the New Dundee digital sign is working for you. And so first of all, thank you to everybody that provided information to us. So starting actually tomorrow on the Facebook page for Castle Kilbride. So as Al mentioned, it's at Castle Kilbride. And every day, and sometimes twice a day, you're going to see posts from all the members. And you've all provided us information about our committee, some of the initiatives that we've done. And it's going to be a real kind of blast of information daily for a solid 7 days on celebrating Heritage Week, and with the articles as well in the New Hamburg Independent with the Heritage Day edition. So although we couldn't do it in person, I think we're going to definitely be seen, hopefully in the next week, on digital signs, even in New Dundee, and read across, and then written and social media. So I'm happy we're able to at least still do this for everybody.
Yeah, and thanks, Tracy, for organizing and helping us make sure we get all our stuff done.
I have, and I've Sherry definitely is the backbone for social media to help as well. So she's got everything ready to go and all the posts for Facebook to come out.
Excellent. Was there anything else to add on that? Don't see any hands raised.
Oh, I'll just follow up with after the meeting, I'll email all the committee members the complete list of what you're going to see every day, so you know what day will be yours, and kind of nice to see what it all looks like in total.
Excellent. Thanks, Tracy. Oh, next item was the 2021 meeting schedule. So Tracy has been working on a draft meeting schedule for us. She's got a few meetings this spring, and our break we typically have in the summer, and then fall dates as well. We'll keep the virtual format until we can meet in person, and I think the 4 o'clock time works for most people. And Tracy, I think you were going to send out the schedule to everyone after the meeting. Don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add.
Absolutely. I have the draft right now just on the website, and I'll just, if everyone was okay with it, I'll just remove the draft, and then I'll send everybody a PDF of it as well, and invites. until we can meet in person. Sorry, when we can meet in person.
Perfect. I think we can move on then to correspondence. Only item I had under there was an update regarding information sharing with development services. At our last meeting, we discussed about buildings that might be older, but not included on the Heritage Register. And there was some discussion about if there'd be a way to be informed if they're going to be demolished for any reason. And that was just to allow an opportunity for us to take a picture of them before they're removed. And so I had reached out to Harold Okrafka, who advised that township staff could definitely let us know when they issued a demolition permit for a building. And the information is not public until the permit's issued. So once that happens, then they can certainly let us know. And then that will give us a chance to go and take photos of buildings before they go down. So I look forward to that. And I think that'll be nice to be able to have some record of some of the other buildings. Just wanted to share that with everybody. Oh, Al, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, just wanted to add that I've been on this committee a long time, maybe too long sometimes when I think back. But we did have that right years and years and years ago under a previous time frame, and so it'll be good to be able to do that. The only downside is it's going to be probably a quick turnaround to be able to get out there and do it. But this is good. Hopefully it includes all buildings, because we are losing barns like you would not believe across the township. And there are barns which they're not being demolished by mankind, they're being demolished by the elements. And maybe we should be actually going out and photographing some of those, because there's one of those that I drive by every time I go to work, when I do go to work. So that's good news. I'm glad that we'll be able to work with development services to do that.
I was pretty happy about that. On barns, I don't believe there's a demolition permit that's needed for barns. I think because they're an agricultural building, they're exempt from that. So it may not be a bad idea to take photos of barns anyway, because you never know. Councillor Fisher.
Yep, thank you. So the Huntsberger house on Snyder's Road, there hasn't been anything on that, like a demolition permit, or have you heard anything?
I have not heard anything.
I as well have not been circulated on anything about that property.
Barry, which one's the Huntsberger one again?
It's almost at the far end of Snyder's Road, down towards Sandhills on the left side, and they close the road there. I think that's on the non-designated.
So I think we call it 1908 house.
Yeah, that's right. No, I haven't heard anything about any recent ones, so definitely not that one either. Yvonne, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. And I'm wondering what kind of a turnaround time there usually is in between when there's a demolition permit given. What kind of is there like a turnaround time between the permit being given and the actual demolition? Or is it just whenever it happens after it's been given approval?
That might be a question for follow-up to development services. I think
it would make a difference in how quickly, like if you have to go out the next day to take pictures because it's going to come down in 24 hours, that would make a difference for us, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think once the permit's issued, I don't know if there's a waiting period or not. Patty, did you have something to add? Oh, you're muted.
There we go. Sometimes that's the only thing that's holding a project up. I mean, the design's there, everything's there, and then they're just waiting for a demolition permit, in which case, the equipment could be on site. It's sometimes very short, so I don't know.
Tracy?
I just had a follow-up comment about we mentioned barns. And I remember when, shortly after I came, and I know Al, you probably remember Dr. John Carter from the ministry, and there was the, he did a lecture called The Disappearing Barn, and he used quite a few from Wilmot Township. And I know I've got in the file, so Louvred Barn in Baden. I have that, but that would be something to document. I agree, the barns, and there's quite a bit of talk about the disappearing barns of Ontario.
Yeah, I've seen that at heritage conferences too, where that's definitely been a topic. Oh, Patty, did you have something else you want to go?
Yeah, sorry. The barn, I don't know, I was at that thing that Mr. Carter did, but the barn that burnt, when was it? In the last, well, certainly in the last year. Al, you'd know. It's on really the same property that's part of the Harold Schmidt estate. Anyway, that's gone, right? That I haven't. Al?
I think so. I mean, the barn that I remember most, it was the Louvred barn just outside of Petersburg, which was on our previous list of ours, and it disappeared. And that one disappeared because I think the owner sold all the lumber. That's the one thing about barns is older barns. A lot of them are still first cut lumber. And there's a huge demand for first cut lumber, and most of that is in buildings. And as someone pointed out to me, one of my nephews, when we bought our house, and he loves the house, and he says, the wood in your house is worth more than the house, and the same would be said of a barn. So, but I think the one you were referring to, is that the one that we were just talking about, the 1908 building?
Yeah.
Matters Road. Yeah, I think that
the one in behind there. Yeah, a little closer to Sand Hills, but the one on that property. Yeah. And we were in that once not so long ago, and there were it had obviously caught on fire and been put out. There were burnt. There was burnt lumber in there, but then it was fine. It was out, and but then it's gone. Yeah, that's really kind of. I wish I'd taken more photographs back there. I think I have a little bit.
Yes, Mark.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Oh, now you're muted.
Oh.
There you go.
When I was on HPAC, we had a project where we took photographs of the barns, and I did the ones in Wilmot Township. And you have that record, Tracy. I gave all those photos to you. Okay? And there were lots of them that I took almost every barn in the township. And this is at least 2 years ago.
I'd forgotten about that. Tracy, were you trying to say something?
I think Jen has her hand up.
Oh, yeah. Jen, you're in the glare on my screen, so I don't see your little hand. I have to adjust my screen.
I'll wave both hands. How's that? I just wanted to I love old barns, and yeah, the original beams are really, they're just fantastic. My house is actually built like a barn, and we have the main structure of our house is hand-hewn beams. You can see the axe marks in them. It's pretty great. The office that we have on the farm is also, the barn was built with these massive timbers that were hand-hewn, and we were able to use that framework in the office when we renovated the upstairs. So I get to look at it every day. It's beautiful.
Very cool. Welcome, Grant.
Welcome, Nick. I've arrived.
You're just in time for roundtable and info sharing. I didn't have anything on the agenda. I don't know if anyone else had anything they wanted to share. Al?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I received some, apparently the Paul Knowles is going to be producing his volume again this year, because I got an email about that, asking if I participate, which I probably will. So that is coming out later in the year, so that'll be something to look forward to. And secondly is I'm going to be doing a regular column for the trying to for the Wilmot Post twice a month on this week in Wilmot history. So I'm kind of looking forward to doing that. Just kind of scrambling around to come up with different topics, because it's a little different than just picking a topic, because you've got to try and fit it into the week. So I'm going to give that a go and see how it goes, and that'll be a nice ongoing feature that Lisa's hoping to put in the post. So I will be contacting Tracy to go through the archives at some point, see how what we can do, because we're going to try and illustrate the column with at least one illustration. So just thought I'd let everybody know that.
Great. Thanks, Al. Yvonne?
I wanted to add that I am involved with a group called Let's Tree Wilmot. And one of the locations in Wilmot that we're going to be looking at for tree planting is the Arboretum. It's been put on sort of the hit list of important locations in the township that deserves attention. And I started doing research into this, and with much help from Ralph Shantz, who knows everything about this. Anyway, I started realizing how historical this property is. And there is an article that is actually coming up in the Wilmot Post that I wrote about it, and it strikes me as something that deserves more recognition than it's getting. And I'm not sure what the parameters are for the Cultural Heritage Landscape Project, but I'm wondering whether this is something that fits into the parameters for that. Because when you look at the history and what has led it to where it is today, there is just so much involvement by community members, and there's just so much to it. It's such a rich historical project that I'd like to see that. Is it something that we can do, give it like recognition in some way? Is this something that is done?
I think it sounds certainly like it could be a candidate for a cultural heritage landscape. It seems to fit in with the being valued by the community, and it's definitely has some history to it. So I think that would definitely be a great one to raise as part of the study. Tracy?
Yeah, I was just going to echo what you said, Nick, because with the cultural heritage landscape, so it does include like parks, gardens. There's quite a list. It absolutely would fit the criteria to include. So put that as number one on your list, Yvonne. And I also, I mean, you'd know yourself from the research on, we included that in the exhibit 2017 that Sherry pulled together for our sesquicentennial. And it was identified because it was the first in Ontario. And a lot of people don't realize the significance of it. So absolutely, we've got our first on our list.
Great. Anyone else? Info sharing? I don't think I'm missing any hands. All right. Next meeting, put down April 7th, since the March meeting would only be in a few weeks. So we thought it made sense to bump it to April. So if that's fine with everyone. And then beyond that, we're at adjournment, so motion to adjourn. Al, Jen, excellent. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for our virtual meeting, and hope you all have a good rest of the day.